If you've been struggling in your self development journey, you've read the classic books, the self help books, you've watched videos, but you find yourself not able to make them work. You're not actually getting any success from it. Perhaps you'll get a moment, a blip, but then past that, you find that you revert back to the old ways. They almost grip you and you can't let them go. And I totally, completely understand where you're coming from. And I understand that frustration because I've also lived it. When I went through my identity crisis, trying to figure out who I am and what am I meant for, I went through a period of trying to figure out self-help books and find them and learn about them. But it helped in some ways, but it never really solved me to my core. And it was until I realized this one thing that all of a sudden it started to make a lot of sense. And I want to share that with you today. But before I do, if you guys have either watched my stuff before, if you're new to the channel, if you need any additional help, go ahead and click that button below. It'll send you over to my website. You can download my 3-step identity rebuilding guide, something I developed during my time of identity loss, and it's part of my Rule of 3 method. So if this resonates with you, go ahead and join my community. You'll also be part of the monthly newsletter where I give you more insights and strategies towards the topic of integration, rebuilding purpose, and rediscovering identity. Part of the reason why you're finding that it's just not working is because the challenge you're dealing with, perhaps the trauma you're dealing with, is much deeper than some perhaps surface level issue. Now, what do I mean by that? So I have a trauma map that I've built out. And it's not to degrade or make a competition as to whose life is harder. We're not trying to do that. But we want to have an interpretation, an idea as to where we sit and as to why maybe some things are working, why some things aren't working. So I classify them into 3 groups. You have low, moderate, and extreme. So you have low trauma, moderate trauma, extreme trauma. And those are metrics based on the state of arousal during that particular event. So which were you in a state of fight, flight, or freeze, and to which degree, how high of a level were you on during that environment? So for example, on the low area, so the low trauma score, you're classified on also in a three subcategories. You have one-off, occasional, and consistent. Let's say you've had people not pay attention to you as much. You feel kind of ignored. And it didn't put you in a fight, flight, or freeze response, but it was definitely uncomfortable. You didn't like it. It hurt your own self-worth and it caused you to compensate in certain ways. And let's say that was done consistently, okay? Done throughout your whole adolescent life. That forms a particular scar, forms a particular emotional knot. And perhaps when you watch certain, self-help books, in some ways it helps. Maybe it helps in terms of avoiding certain situations, maybe talking yourself out of a bad rut. But you find that unless you've tackled the deep root, the shadow as to why this emotion or these patterns reoccur in your life, you find that all these surface level remedies help temporarily, but you never actually get to the core of it. Or maybe you're on the moderate to extreme trauma level. Perhaps you've experienced some abuse, physical abuse, and there is no way that any sort of talk better, think positive is going to help you at all. Not at least right now. It can eventually, but not right now. And so what you're probably seeking is something a little deeper. Now, the uncomfortable truth about it is that this knowledge, this remedy you're seeking, is going to be found in the areas of your mind that you do not want to address. We want to avoid them. They bring up too much emotion. They bring up too much pain, and it's something that I'd rather just put away. But understand these forces are very powerful. These complexes are very powerful. You can think of them as having their own personalities in some way. And to sort of put it into a real life perspective, haven't you had a time when, a particular event triggered a certain emotion, triggered a certain memory? Unconsciously, you reacted to it. You reacted in the moment. Maybe you said something you shouldn't have. Maybe you exerted a lot of anger and you broke something. And then later you say, I don't know what came over me. I don't know what happened. Something took over and I went red. So complexes, when left to their own devices and we don't understand how they operate, they function as that. They function almost like possessions in a way. They take control and they just wreak havoc, and then it's only after do we reflect and go, man, I don't know what that was. But then how do we address these things? Well, the first thing to understand is you want to reflect inward with curiosity and adventure and compassion. You do not want to tackle this with judgment. You can approach it with a firm hand, father figure like. And I love archetypes and I use them a lot in my work, but we look at it as sort of the king archetype, which is the center of our psyche. The king archetype creates order, vision for the future. It protects, it grants blessings. And so if you imagine yourself as the king to yourself, what would you do? How would you address it? Or if you were the queen to yourself, you address it with a firm hand, but you do not bludgeon yourself. You do not abuse. You are curious. Allow yourself to explore. Allow yourself to come forward with these memories. Piece them together. Understand their effect on you. And perhaps there's an element of your life that when you reflect on and you journal, that you can let go of that memory. That is no longer who you are. It served you at some point, but is no longer serving you today. Or perhaps you integrate it because there's parts of it that you actually say, you know what? There's some I want to cast out, but there's some things that it's made me who I am. It's made me resilient. It's made me empathic. It's made me disciplined. And so I'm going to keep those. I'm going to integrate that. And this will allow you to reinterpret your life, reinterpret the direction you're supposed to go. And now you become the arbiter. You can control the direction of your life. Because if there's areas of you that you have discovered and start to understand and piece together and understand your workings and how you've been operating, your belief systems, once you understand them and you integrate what I like to call integrating as the soul and the ego, having them overlap, then purpose becomes deep. And then you can take yourself from the surface level of self-help, walking a certain way and making eye contact and all these important things are very, very important. And oftentimes I advise people to do that in order to find points throughout that aren't really working. Why aren't they working? Well, because it's probably a deeper issue we have to resolve. So they work very well. I'm not discrediting them. But once you get those in line and you get the core of your issue, the unconscious, the shadows, once we understand their workings and everything's in alignment, your world opens up. Everything starts to change. You'll feel calmer. You'll feel less affected by things. You'll be able to channel the warrior, the magician, which is the holder of wisdom, of knowledge. All of us have these within us. The lover, which experiences the sensual part of life, the beauty, the poetry, the sights, the sunset, nature. And then the king, which is the center that holds all these together, which are the council. And you are both, this is really important, you are both the servant to the king. And at the same time, you are the king. But you got to be very mindful you do not embody and identify, which could then lead to inflation, thinking that you are essentially God. Inflation of the ego gets to a point where you want to inhabit godhood, that you are invulnerable, untouchable, never make mistakes, which is very, very dangerous. And it also has the inverse effect as well. So if this resonated with you, if this helped you see something, I'm very happy. And comment below if there's something that within you want to share to the community. This is the environment for it. Share your own findings. Maybe share something that you saw within yourself that you can pass on to somebody else. I want the comment section to be a place of back and forth communication, open dialogue, just so we can maybe help each other in this direction of ego-soul integration, rebuilding purpose, and rediscovering who you are. And if you want to go deeper, you want to be part of my community, you can go ahead and click that button below. It'll send you over to my website. Sign up to the free newsletter. It's a monthly newsletter. And then as a gift, I'm going to give you my 3-step identity rebuilding guide. It's a toolkit to help you along the process of rediscovering who you are. Thank you very much. I'll see you on the next video.